The Agenda with Michael Knight on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
9 minutes past 1 o'clock. The weekend has begun. It's the gateway to all the fun you're going to have this weekend. Michael Knight here in this end. And on the phone with me right now is our motorist extraordinaire and our aficionado of all things on four wheels, New York Vinnie. Hey, Vinnie, how are you?
Mikey, I'm doing good. After that introduction, I think I'm going to start calling you the Allen Ginsberg of automobiles.
Oh, I somehow... What kind of car would Ginsberg drive? Probably a Volvo, right?
I would think like a 69, 70, one of those old Volkswagen-looking Volvos, those P144s.
Oh, I know what you mean.
You can see Ginsberg.
The kind that were sort of orange or yellow, and they fade away, and they just hardly have any color left over them. For years and years, they just go around with a color that can't be named, a color that does not appear in nature.
My friend Brenda Pretty in Arizona has exactly that car, an old yellow P144 Volvo, and it's exactly as you describe it. It's faded and it's old looking, but it's still a beautiful car.
Well, let's leave the Volvo in the garage today and drive that new BMW. Which one do you have in mind?
Oh, man, I got to tell you about this car I was driving, Mikey. I've driven, I've been doing this, 30 years, right? What is it now, 30 years we've been doing this?
30 years of drive time.
Yeah, 30 years of drive time. I got into the 2018 BMW M550i X-Drive, and I got to say that this is one of the cars that's in the top 10 of any car I have ever driven. I mean that sincerely, man. I mean, it from the front to the back, to the way it drives, to the luxury inside, to the way you sit in this car, to the little things like the speakers in the doors that have lights in them that keep you awake at night. It is a fantastic machine. 3.2 seconds from 0 to 60.
3.2.
480 horsepower.
Ooh.
Four-wheel drive. It hugs the ground, and as the more you go, the faster you go in this car. As you accelerate in this car, it sits down, the suspension lowers it down, it gets down to the ground, and it hugs the road. Now, unfortunately, you can only go so fast here, but people I know that have driven them on the track say it as well as it operates out in the street, it's twice as better on the track. It is simply the best luxury sedan that I've ever driven. It really, it's so impressive. I really can't say enough about this car, the engineering, and I'm an Audi guy. I love Audis. But this BMW just took me for a ride. I couldn't get out of the car, Mikey. I kept driving the car.
Well, give me the numbers again on this new BMW. What is it?
It's the BMW M550i X-Drive. So it's not a complete M, which is the performance wing of BMW. They have a new M that's going to be coming out. It's almost ready to hit the showrooms, and that'll be faster than this. But it has a lot of the M accoutrements. It has the disc brakes. It has the slight performance tuning. It's quiet, so you don't wake the neighbors up with it when you come into the driveway. It has the M steering wheel, the flat-bottom steering wheel, the M interior, the M sill plates. So it's I guess, an M Light. But it really is, again, if you're thinking about a luxury car and you want to spend in the area of about $90,000, this car definitely, without a doubt, bears taking a look at.
Yeah, I was guessing at the price, and I said, well, 80? No, it's got to be more than 80, and it was.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's with destination and tax and everything, you're going to hit 90.
When did you drive the BMW, and what made you give it back? I know they probably tracked you down and said, we know where the car is, Vinny. We got the GPS.
Well, it's exactly it. Then they came to the house with two guys and said, listen, time's up, man. And I begged them. I said, listen, I want to take a longer road trip because I drove it from Pittsburgh up to Chautauqua, which is about 200 miles, and then back again. And I just didn't want to give the car up. And, you get these cars sometimes, and, oh, man, you can't wait to get out of the car. But this one, you absolutely did not want to give this car up. If you have $1 million, this is the car you want to buy.
Well, one time when we were test driving cars in Seattle, Vinny, I had a Porsche for the weekend. You probably remember that. And my wife, Kristen, got to drive it. She went to QFC and says, you know what? People look differently at you when you drive a Porsche to QFC. And I said, yeah, I bet they do. What Porsche did you just drive?
Yes, they do, Michael.
Yes, they do. And you drove the new electric, right?
No, I didn't drive it. But they've revealed the name of it, and they've talked about now exactly a little bit more about when it's going to come out, and it's going to be called the Taken, which means little wild horse, I think, in some language.
Probably German.
And it's no. Actually, it's a mix of European and Asian. So I don't know. It was called the Mission E, and I guess they didn't think they could sell a lot of Porsches with the name Mission E. So they came up with the Taycan, and they've been testing it, and they announced the other day that it will be out in late 2019. It's
is it fully electric?
Sports car, fully electric. It'll they say that it's going to have a couple of different variants, with the top variant being 600 horsepower plus. Now, part of the reason why I think your lovely wife said that people look at her when the Porsche pulls up is because it makes a certain sound. There's a certain sound about a Porsche that, it's kind of groovy. It kind of rumbles your butt a little bit.
I know. It arrives.
Yeah, you feel it. Like, you feel it in the steering wheel. You feel it. I wonder how much of that's going to translate into driving this car, because it's going to be silent.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing could be hitting 600 horsepower coming down the street, and you won't hear it. It'll be like whoosh.
Not even a hum. Wow, that's going to be strange.
Yeah, and that's why they're talking about, and I know in some of these cars, what they're doing is they're putting in sound so that the driver can feel about what it would be like if it was a gasoline engine. Because there's a lot of people that drive by the sound, by what the car sounds like.
Sure.
And if they can't do that, if they don't have that, then they're in trouble. So, reportedly, the Porsche engineers are going to build something like that into this car. I guess you'll be able to shut it off, but there'll be some kind of sound that will have to be built into this car. But it's really, from what everybody is saying, it really, they're going to go 402 horsepower, 536 horsepower, and 670 horsepower, and the price will be slotted in near a Panamera, which is their four-door sedan. So probably in the $190,000 to $100,000 range to start, and all the way up to maybe about $190,000 if you want the, if you want the 670 horsepower with all the bells and whistles. The interesting thing is, Mikey, with this car, is that the test models, I don't know why they did this, maybe just to kind of upset people, but they put exhaust pipes on them.
Just to make everybody feel better about it.
Yeah, if you look at the test model, the prototype, you look at the back of it, it's got two Porsche exhausts coming out of the back. So, you watch Hogan's Heroes, those wacky Germans with their sense of humor.
They've got a twisted sense of humor, no doubt about it. When's the Porsche going to be ready for market?
They are saying 2019, early 2020.
Well, for folks who
You'll be able to buy one.
For folks without $90,000 to spend on that, maybe they should buy that new Chevy that you've been talking about. What's the name of that one?
Well, and I'll bet you everybody in your audience at one time or another has owned a Chevy Blazer. It was one of the most popular trucks ever to roll out of Detroit. Started back in 1968 as the K5 four-wheel drive Blazer and went until, 2005 as a full-size Chevy pickup that was shortened. The rails were shortened, and the top came off, and it was, I mean, for four-wheeling, for driving around, for having fun, for snow plowing, they were the greatest. They were the best. That and the Ford Bronco were the two best. And they stopped making the Blazer, the full-size Blazer, back in 2005. But Chevy announced yesterday that the Blazer is going to be born again as I can't stop calling it a Camaro SUV.
Well, go ahead. Call it a Camaro SUV.
It's going to come back as an SUV that'll slot between their big 7-seat Traverse and the Equinox, which is the next one down, 6-seater, and it has a high rear. It has the Camaro front on it. Even the dashboard has all the Camaro styling cues. And they're going to make an RS version, which is, as you probably remember, the Camaro RS, a rally sport, was, the first popular derivative of the base Camaro. And come in two versions, a 4-cylinder and a 6-cylinder. You're going to have the RS version, you have a luxury version. It won't be, as durable, I guess, an off-road vehicle as the old Blazer was, because this is really kind of much more a station wagon, hatchback, etc. But really, a sharp-looking car. And again, they're going back to a retro name to sell Chevrolets. It'll be made in Mexico, so that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And they say that when it's in the showrooms in 2019, it'll probably start at around $30,000. You'll probably be able to get one for $40,000 with the V6.
Everybody, all the American car makers, with the possible exception of Dodge, I guess, is having more success with their trucks and their SUVs and with their passenger cars, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, that's what people are buying now. I sometimes don't understand it, but it's what's going on right now. People want bigger cars. Gas is still relatively cheap, although I don't think it's going to stay like that. We saw the decision by Ford to stop making some of their cars. We don't know what Chevy and FCA are going to do yet. I still think there's going to be a market for cars. I don't think everybody's going to want to drive an SUV, especially, once again, if the gas price goes up. But we're more and more getting away from coupes and sedans and much, much more getting into station wagons, getting into hatchbacks, and getting into SUVs, which, again, I think people want the safety factor. I think they want more space, more room. People carry more stuff with them these days. And I think this is me, I think a lot of people like that high seating position as well.
Yeah, visibility.
A lot of these SUVs.
Exactly. We're talking with New York Vinnie. It's 1:20. Yeah, Vinnie, hold on one sec. We're talking with New York Vinnie. It's 1:23. We'll be back to discuss this in further detail right after this.
You're listening to The Agenda on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
Them in, but that often means I set my own health aside. I needed a...
The Agenda with Michael Knight on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
At 1:26 in the afternoon, this is News Radio 560 KPQ. I'm Michael Knight. Our very special guest is New York Vinnie, and we're talking about cars as we sometimes do. We'll talk about baseball in a minute. But Vin, we just left talking about the larger trucks and cars that people seem to prefer, the SUV being king, and Pacifica's got a new one out now.
Yeah, Chrysler has, and I'm really impressed with their minivan. You know, Chrysler invented the minivan back in the Lee Iacocca days.
Yeah.
The Plymouth, the Reliant, and those K-car minivans, and they've really taken it to a new level. I drove the Pacifica Hybrid, and if you don't need the height of the SUV, if you need the space of a car, and you want to get great gas mileage, and you want the luxury of an SUV, the luxury of a minivan, the Chrysler Pacificas are an unbelievable car. A lot of people want to get involved in the environmental thing, and they want to look at, they're afraid to go full tilt boogie into an electric. Well, the hybrid is a great way to go because it runs, for 25 or 30 miles on electric. So if you're going around town, you're driving around Wenatchee, you got to go here, over to Leavenworth, something like that. Boom. It'll take you there electrically. You can plug it in. It's a plug-in hybrid. Charge it, and it'll take you back. You don't use any gas. But if you want to use gas, if you want to go on the highway, if you're going to take a long trip, you have the gas there. This car was so nice, Michael, that it had a vacuum cleaner in it so that you can clean up. You don't even have to spend a quarter at the gas station anymore to vacuum the car out. It comes with a little rigid vacuum cleaner right there in the back. You just uncurl the hose, and you can make the kids clean the car up after themselves. I think that alone is worth buying it. But a great car, runs for about $40,000, $50 if you go full tilt boogie, but you can find them even for less. You can find them for between $35 and $40 with a great warranty, and I think the best minivan out there. Better than, as nice as anything else you're going to drive out there. And American-made, so you can, feel good about driving an American car. Good quality, too. Great quality in this car, in the Chrysler as well. I think it's a great buy, maybe the ultimate American family car.
Now, Vinnie, we had a story last week that the Fiat parent of Chrysler was thinking about maybe even discontinuing the brand. Is that a reality?
I don't think so at this point. No. I think there's always talk about that kind of thing, but their Fiat sales, if they want to stay in this country, Chrysler does too much. They do too many police cars. They do too many. I don't think they're going to discontinue the brand. I think they need to freshen up. I'm actually driving a Chrysler 300 this week as my road test vehicle, and this is a great vehicle, but it's like the Jurassic Park of cars. It's a dinosaur in that the styling has been around. The same car has been around since 1999, something like that, when they came out with this thing. So it needs to be. You definitely need a restyle of a couple of their cars, but I think that. I think Chrysler will live on. That Pacifica is too successful. Ram trucks which is a different brand now. They used to be Chrysler, Dodge. I think those cars will live on. I don't think they're going to pull the plug on it yet.
Now, if I gave you unlimited funds, which car would you take of the ones you've talked about? The Porsche Electric, the Chevy, the Pacifica, or I think I know which one, that BMW?
Yeah, I think I would take the BMW. Yeah, out of those cars that I just mentioned, that BMW was a spectacular car. It had everything that you want as a daily driver. It had speed, agility. It was comfortable. It was just funky enough that it had great interior placement for everything. It was truly an incredible machine.
New York Vinnie and I have talked about sports for years together. I'm running out of time here, Vin, but in 30 seconds, can you and you're not ready for this, so excuse me for throwing it on you, but in 30 seconds or so, can you tell me the team that has surprised you the most this year in Major League Baseball?
The Mariners.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mariners. Yeah, I didn't think they were going to do much of anything, to be honest with you. When Cano went down, I thought it was going to be even worse.
The funny thing is, they're not the only team that's lost some important people in the infield, and kids come up and they just they fill the gap, and of course having DeAnthony around doesn't hurt.
Yeah. I mean, they've come up, they've assembled the cast of characters with cast-offs from other teams, some of their farm guys, and they've put together a nice little team. I don't know that they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know that they're going to win the World Series or anything like that, but I like the way they're playing. I like the way the team has gelled so far, and anybody that tells you that the same guy that tells you that he thought the Mariners were going to win the World Series is the guy that told you that he thought that Las Vegas was going to go to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
It it ain't that way. But, you know, it's a fun ride. I hope Mariner fans enjoy it as long as it lasts. And who knows, maybe they'll get lucky. You know, the Yankees are tough this year. They've won their 50th game at the expense of the Mariners. But right now, it's turning into a fun baseball season. And, yeah, they've surprised me a lot.
It looks like my Giants are going to be in the baseball season as soon as we get our starting pitching back. Bumgarner came back. We got Johnny Cueto coming. We got Jeff Smarger coming. We might even have a pitching staff. I don't know if that's going to make any difference, but it possibly could.
Well, you know, Mike, whenever the Giants win, you don't expect them to win, do you?
No. Well, I don't, because I've become a bit of a fatalist.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that they're surprisingly like the Mets. You never expect them to win, and all of a sudden you turn around and you say, how the heck did they get in the World Series? And you're calling friends saying, give me tickets. So, you know, that's the great thing about the Giants is you learn to appreciate it more when they do win. You know, they're not going to be a dynasty. They're going to be a team that every few years is going to catch a break, get a right combination of players, get their right pitching in order, and boom, they're going to do something. I don't know if that'll be this year, but if they can keep people healthy, you know, maybe something will happen. I mean, you know, you look at that division, I don't know, who do you, I mean, the Dodgers last year, but then they're not any great shakes, I don't think, yet this year.
For some reason, the Dodgers have been snake bit for about 5 years. I can't figure out what they did. That stadium has been there long enough so it's not on a burial ground of any sort, but something desperately wrong with that team.
I don't know what it is. They seem to look on paper like they're a great team, but all of a sudden, boom. Now, what you got to tell me, Mikey, is what's going on with the Apple Sox.
Apple Sox don't have their full team yet. They're playing with sort of like their reserves because a lot of the kids were in the College World Series. So in a couple of days, we're going to get some more players, and we'll have a better shot at, you know, we're struggling. We're playing about 500 right now. We win a couple, lose a couple, and often can't get a offense going. But I think that's going to change, Vin, when the top starters get here from Omaha.
Well, I'm going to get out there this year, and I want to see the Apple Sox. I want you to take me to an Apple Sox game.
Oh yeah, we'll stay up late and go to a baseball game. That'll be my big adventure. Vinny, I got to let you go. We got Haley Van Lith, who's a local basketball player that's a real star. She could be on her way to UConn or wherever else she wants to go, UCLA. It's really her choice. And it's always great to hear your voice. I love you, Vin.
Love you too, Mikey. I'll talk to you soon.
That's New York Vinny. He recommends the BMW. Haley Van Lith from Cashmere's Bulldogs coming up next.